Uh, if you have any, if you have any questions for any of the panelists or for Therese, please use the chat or the Q&A feature of the of of Zoom and throw them in there. It's really more interaction kind of equals a better webinar actually. So and then we will send you a quick four question survey afterwards and to just see what you thought. So just those of you that don't know what SCORE is, we are a national nonprofit that we began back in 1964, and it's grown. We have over 200 chapters and 11,000 volunteers like myself. Besides sponsoring educational workshops and webinars like this, we counsel small businesses, and that's really what our forte is. We're known as America's counselors to small businesses. Our counseling is free and confidential. So will counsel startups or existing businesses, for-profit, nonprofit. So if you feel that you want to start a business or you want to improve your business, we can probably help you. So you can see on the screen how to contact us. Locally, we have about 47 counselors, and they each have a very diverse business skill set. So we have marketing professionals, finance, supply chain, human resource. And if we don't have the expertise, we will go help you seek it out. So locally, we're funded by the Stark Community Foundation, the Hoover Foundation, Stark State University, and we are a resource partner with the SBA. Our offices are located at Stark State University in the Business and Entrepreneur Building, room 331. So with that, our moderator is Therese McGroty. She's a franchise consultant. I've known her for a very long time, and if you have any curiosity about owning a business, Therese is the person to go to. She was and is a small business owner, both her and her husband. So I think they could help you out immensely. So, Therese, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can introduce the panelists, and we'll get going.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Thank you,
All right.
SCORE. And thank you, anyone that is in attendance today. We're really excited to bring what I like to call three happy franchisees, although all three my panelists are not necessarily in a franchise. So we're just going to start with Kathy Kingsley, and we will have her introduce herself, tell you a little bit about her business. Okay, Kathy.
Hello. So my name is Kathy Kingsley, and I have been a franchise owner for about 7.5 years now. My franchise is Big Frog Custom T-shirts. We are the corporate is based out of Florida and near Clearwater, and I am located west of Cleveland in Avon, Ohio. Again, been in business for about 7.5 years, and it's been a huge learning experience. My background is I was an executive officer at PNC Bank, loved it for 20 years, something like that. And then I decided it was time to do something for myself. So I left that business, and I have not looked back. I've enjoyed every minute. We have a great opportunity here. A great draw. We do apparel decorating, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, polos, quarter zips, pretty much anything you're looking for. Our customers are everywhere. It's everybody from the grandma on the street who needs a t-shirt for a grandchild's birthday, to organizations who need 100 shirts for a walk, to businesses who want to decorate their apparel for Pride. I mean, just about anybody. And we have no minimums, quick turnaround. So we've got, with this brand franchise, I loved it because it had such a unique draw to it. with, again, quick turnarounds, no minimums. I can help just about anybody. That literally my customer is everywhere and anywhere. So it's a fun business. People come into our shop. We actually have a storefront, and everybody's pretty much happy about being able to decorate their own shirt, and they don't need to buy a whole bunch. I've got a great team here working with me that is quite a few of them are long-term employees, and we work together really well. We understand each other, and it's been an all-around great learning experience. I like the franchise because this particular franchise provides an incredible support system behind it, and they support about 75 franchises with systems, training, and group discounts and purchasing power and just about anything else that we would possibly need. So like I said, it's been a wonderful experience.
Thanks, Kathy. Hey, Andre, how about you tell us a little bit about you and your franchise?
Yeah, so we own Kitchen Tune Up. We've been doing this for a little bit over 5 years. Primary core services are this cabinet refacing and new cabinets. We got into a showroom space mid last year. So we've been utilizing that. So it's really nice for our customers to be able to touch and feel the products and see more options than what we can just bring into their home with an initial consultation. So about 5 years we've been doing this. Background was project management, business analyst type of work. So we have a nice team. Try to be nice to ourselves and to our customers and treat them well in their homes and update their kitchens.
Excellent, excellent. And so Danny is not part of a franchise, and yet we do represent some what I call business opportunities. You want to tell us a little about your business, Danny?
Yeah, sure. So maybe quickly, just my background, similar to Kathy, I come from financial services. So I'm a CPA by trade, and was in kind of the audit risk management world for about 15 years. I was lucky enough to meet Therese, and never would I think in a million years I'd go from a CPA to a shoe salesman, if you will. But that's the power of talking to somebody and being open-minded in terms of what's next for me. So I have 4 Red Wing shoe stores. For those of you not familiar with Red Wing, we specialize in safety footwear. So we have a large retail component, obviously, but we also have a large industrial component. So a lot of manufacturers, send employees and pay for their employees' footwear. So that's a big component of our business. Looking to acquire a couple more that would give me 6, but really love it. Haven't turned back at all. Not sure what I'd do if I didn't meet Therese and go this route. So I'm thankful every day, and I probably don't tell Therese that enough, but we obviously stay in communication and we talk every once in a while. But love what I do. Not a typical franchise, but I think in terms of running the business, again, we're a dealership, but in terms of owning it and running it and executing on it, it really doesn't probably feel any different than a franchise. I would say probably one of the biggest differences is maybe not that standard franchise fees that you might have to pay and some of that other stuff. So just a little different, but in terms of the folks on this call, I think it's really relevant and probably all the same lessons and learning curves probably apply whether you're a dealership or a franchise.
Well, I love what you just said, and that is that you had to have an open mind, right? And I think that that's a conversation that I had with all 3 of you, with all of my clients, every one of them, that you need to be, open-minded and not just, in trusting. We have that long conversation, and we do what we call an entrepreneur profile. And we have a pretty long conversation about being open-minded and what you want business ownership to do with you. Henceforth, why we have 3 different people with 3 different franchises on here. So I think all of my clients usually look at 4 or 5 different opportunities, and everybody latches on for one reason or another. But I think one of the things that people sometimes wonder is, well, I want to go into business, but I don't know what I want to do. And how would you say that using a consultant, someone like myself, helped you with that? And Andre, I'm going to start with you a lot because Andre came to us. He wasn't quite ready when he came to me. And his thought was, well, I'm going to start now. It's probably going to take me a year or so to be financially and I think kind of physically ready, right? Your wife was ready to have a baby and things like that. So you had things that you had to handle. And I said, well, Andre, I really don't know that I can help you because a franchise won't wait for you to be ready. So let's just talk a little bit about that and what made you hold fast to Kitchen Tune-Up and what made them hold fast to you.
Yeah, because I know initially when we started, it's funny because when I was doing my kitchen tune-up training in Aberdeen, I was sitting next to someone from Alabama. I asked him, how long did it take you to make your decision from when you started to explore to actually signing on with the franchise? And he said 3 months. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty fast. And then he asked me, and I said about a year and a half, and he almost fell out of his chair. And he's like, oh my God. No, so I approached kind of like the idea of being an entrepreneur was always something that resonated with me and I wanted to do, but I just didn't know what. So I think when we initially started, we had about 5 different ones. Anything from swim school to window treatment to some of the other ones. But yeah, it was kind of across the board in different industries. And I think we're just in further conversation. I think the next step of talking to the actual franchises, learning about their process, looking at their financial statements, just the financial potential there as well. Also just the upfront cost, the investment there, and just trying to see if this is something that will stay a certain size or if there's an ability to expand and grow. So I think that's what helped us drive to Kitchen Tune-Up. And then the home office was great, has been great to work with. They're always there to help you out, whether you're having a high or a low. That's always great. We all have highs and lows. That's how it is. I was telling someone the other day, like, don't define your business by your bad days. So I think just that initial discussion with Therese was very helpful because, like I said, I have no idea what's out there. And then going to some additional meetings I went to, conversations with you, then home offices for the franchises really did help me to hone in. And then why they stay with me, I don't know. Maybe I was farming, I don't know.
Well, one reason was you were persistent, because typically they are not going to hold a territory for somebody. But Andre continued to keep in touch with the home office and letting them know of his continued interest and would post on their LinkedIn page and all those kinds of things. And their culture, I know, was a very big deal for you. It was one of the things that I really liked about them too, which endeared you to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less corporate feel.
Yeah.
I worked at PNC as well.
It's time to get out of that corporate world. So Kathy, how about you tell us, your journey was really kind of interesting. I met Kathy and her husband at the very last franchise expo, I believe, that we had here in Cleveland. And they came to my office and what transpired when we reviewed your EPs and had that conversation?
Right. Well, the funny thing is you met Brian, but you didn't meet me. So my husband, for as long as I've known him, has always wanted to own his own business. And I've been married, 25 years. So transpired is he came to me and said, there's a franchise fair up at the IX Center. And I said, go, you've been talking about it forever. And he came back and he said, I met this great person and she can help me find a franchise, but I'm not allowed to go unless you come with me because you can't have a franchise unless you have the support of your spouse. Otherwise, the odds of failing are pretty significant. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I joined him with you, Therese, and we sat an hour and a half later, and I'm looking at him like, I want one of those. So he had his favorite. You paired us up with like 4 or 5 different options. He had his favorite, and I had my favorites. And we went back and we did a 1 month of assessing and reaching out to the other franchise owners in the different franchises. And we regrouped, and he had talked to one franchise, and I had talked about it to a dozen Big Frog owners. And so we basically the kind of decision is, okay, you win, you're better at talking to people. And that's how we ended up. And we decided on Big Frog within, I think, a month or a month and a half, maybe. We were already signing with them and meeting them. It was a real quick process. We knew what we wanted to know and got all of our information. I did the 401k rollover with my 401k, and it was the perfect amount. It was like the sign from heaven or something. I don't know. It just all rolled along so smoothly once we made that decision. And you gave us great options of what we were interested in and where our talents lay. And it was a real easy transition from I don't know what I want to do to I know exactly what I want to do. I want this. I know where I want it to go. I know where I want the store to be. And it was a very smooth process.
Yeah, it was funny when Kathy and Brian, you guys were sitting in my office when you went, yeah, Brian's not gonna do this, I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, well, okay, we have a better chance, because Brian was a total numbers person.
Yeah, he's an introvert. He's a little bit better now, but he's a total introvert. He's an accountant.
Yeah.
He does my bookkeeping.
Well, and I think that I love, I was in business with my husband, so I love that couples go into business together. I know that Andre's wife has a big part in his business. Also not probably as big, because both of your wives work full time, correct? Yeah. Andre, does your wife still work?
She scaled back with the girls.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but and one of the things that I love is being local is that I get to continually promote, my clients. And when I see Kathy post something, I like it, or I'll say something. Andre and Danny, of course, Danny doesn't have to do a whole lot of promoting, but I'm always excited to see that he's continued to grow. So, you and Gina had just been married, correct, Danny? I think when we kind of met, you had not been married very long.
Yeah, maybe a year or two, at
Yeah.
that point. Yep.
And had no children, so they were making a big transition too. So when you did your due diligence in talking to other people that own dealerships and those kinds of things,
Mhm.
what kinds of questions did you ask them?
Yeah, great question. I would say most of my questions to the current dealers were, really revolving around what were their pain points, right? I mean, if you're leaving a career you've been into a long time, you understand the nuances of it, kind of how to navigate it. And so, I think people are always eager to talk about everything that goes well, but I think probably all three of us know that, the challenge comes when things aren't going well. And so that's what I was most interested in. And luckily, I talked to a number of really really good dealers. Some new, some that were well seasoned. But the pain points were really, or the challenges were really the things that kind of stood out to me. And what really stood out is really the amount of them, which really wasn't significant at all. But I felt like I knew where the issues were based on my understanding of the business, which, at that point, you think but you really don't until you really get into the weeds. But the transparency of the folks and just, asking some harder questions. And I remember specifically asking this question, which I think a lot of people thought about that really helped me. I asked them, I said, what should I be asking you that I'm not, right? I don't know what I don't know. And I got some good feedback, right? So that's really what I tried to dial in to is what don't I know and what would be relevant for me to know, because it's the challenges and the issues that come up that could, potentially veer you off track. So.
Yeah, good. Andre, how about you? What were some of the kinds of questions that you asked people?
Yeah, I did because it took so long. I probably did 20 validation calls. I think it was more around, what was your background? What do you start out doing? And kind of now you've been doing this for 3, 5, 7, 10 years. Where are you at now? So it just gave me comfort in terms of, okay, I can scale this to where my whole goal isn't to be installing kitchens, but to be, running the business. So that's, those kind of questions is where were you at, where you are now, and then where do you think you will be, you the owner, in terms of running the business? Because I wanted to see what was the quality of life, what was the experience with the staffing, things like that. I mean, important things like even, this sounds small, but I didn't want to work on the weekends or in the evenings. And I remember one company I was looking at was, I don't remember if they were a commercial cleaning company. I don't even remember talking to them, but they said, yeah, our day starts at 6 p.m. And I thought like, well, that doesn't sound great. So that quality of life was important too. It's like, hey, if I'm making a move, I want to make sure it aligns with that, lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny and Kathy, what impact did owning a franchise have on your personal life from your work life? How balanced is that? Or was that a priority?
From my perspective, not very balanced at all. When you first start out with a franchise, I mean, you're in the business a lot. My husband did great, and I moved from a lot of work from home into work at the store. So my husband was great. We transitioned from me being, because I have 2 kids, and one of my son is special needs. He's got autism. So my husband ended up getting a little bit more flexibility at his work and was able to do more doctor's appointments. Kids are still in school, and they were able to do come home, get settled in with snack, do what they needed. There was a lot of struggle at first before my daughter turned 16. The day she turned 16, she got a car. I'm like, she actually, and she was able to shuttle my son around. She was able to do errands and deliveries, and actually that worked out great during COVID. She was my delivery girl.
Cool.
We never fully shut down, so it was interesting. But as a franchise owner, when you first open, you are 90% of the employees of the business.
Gotcha.
And then it goes up and down as time goes on. You
Yeah.
hire staff. This is great. You got slow times, you got busy times. I hired a store manager, let go of the store manager. Now you're back at full time in the store, and then it's up and down. But it's
Gotcha.
always been fun.
Gotcha. What about you, Danny? How did your work home balance work for you owning a franchise?
Yeah, so my start was maybe a little unique. I don't know if Therese would agree with this, but I continued to work for a couple of years. We had, I can't remember if my daughter was born. So yeah, she was just about to be born. But I stayed kind of in my full-time, kind of the CPA risk management world. And one of the things I remember Therese asking me is, what is it you're looking for and what's the right fit? And I remember telling her, I'm looking for something that, needs, not a ton of significant support from me up front. And I won't get into the details, but there's some really good reasons why Red Wing probably compared to Andre or Kathy, where maybe that would work. I wouldn't suggest that for everybody and in every type of, dealership or franchise. But it did work for me. I was still very involved, but wasn't really ready to jump ship completely. And, the dynamics or economics of a Red Wing store, one store is probably pretty tough to replace, your income. So, it was a plan I had that we set about, and it's worked really, really well. I think fast forward today, my flexibility really couldn't be any better. I don't think I knew how good it was going to be, 7, 8 years ago when I started. I was just starting a family, and I didn't really probably appreciate that as much as I do today. But kind of like Kathy mentioned, you kind of got the ebbs and flows of a new business and things you need to do and get done. But as we've grown, we've kind of realized we can make more investments, hire more people, figure out how to maybe change some processes here and there. Even though the franchise really lays all that out for you, you still have some autonomy to make some changes that you want to make with kind of within the confines of their process. So I guess to answer the question, it's been great. Honestly, pretty much all summer I've been carting my kids around to camps. My wife isn't quite as flexible to me, and it works out great because the summertime is really a slow time. The Red Wing business is cyclical in nature. Not a lot of people buying boots and that sort, in the summer. So it's worked out great.
How many stores do you have, Danny?
So I have 4 now, and I'm in talks for 2 more in our market. So pretty excited about it.
How do you all measure your success and growth? I mean, how do you measure that?
I guess I'll start. I think, obviously
you have balance sheets and profit and loss statements and all that good stuff, or it's just a feel that you're doing okay, or there's always money in the checkbook. How do you measure your success and growth?
Yeah, well, so I guess I'll just start with that. So for me, it's, and probably for Kathy and Andre, it's success is 2-dimensional for me. Obviously, it's the economics and the money, obviously. But for me as a CPA, it comes pretty easily.
Right.
And Red Wing provides all the support. So, POS systems and, well put together financials, everything's really at a push of a button. So in terms of the economics, it really couldn't be better. And then, just from, I guess we touched on it already, it's really the success for me is also the flexibility and the ability to be involved, in my kids and my family's lives. So,
Gotcha.
that's probably the most important.
I think as a CPA, right? I mean, you have certain parts of the year where you're completely unavailable to your family, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. As a, whether you're doing tax accounting or auditing banks like I did, you have times of the year where really you don't have much flexibility. You'll be working, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. So that world is well behind me now, and I'm not sad about it.
So
How about you, Andre?
Kathy, do you have any? Yeah, I'm sorry, I spoke over you there, Therese.
That's all right. How about you, Andre?
Andre, do you have any? How do you measure your success?
I mean, probably, I guess to go the route of numbers. I mean, I would usually start there in terms of from like a business perspective, right? How are your numbers doing? So that's what I look at the most. I mean, obviously with home remodeling, there was a spike during COVID. Now things have settled down to where people are no longer going bonkers on kitchen remodeling and remodeling their homes. So that's changed. So we're learning, I guess part of the growth is also understanding what you need to change and when you need to change it and how that'll impact your business 3 to 6 months down the line. So that's from personnel to services to pricing to some of your messaging, who you're partnering with, things you're selling. So a lot of growth is just, I think, just knowing when to pivot and knowing what changes you need to make. And that was also true during COVID too, understanding which suppliers would give you material in 10 weeks or 20 weeks. So knowing when to quickly change that. But I'll say that's one part of it. And then the other part is financial, is your bottom line. And so as we expanded last year and bought out 2 additional territories to 4 now, obviously there's a financial investment there. So you're looking to make sure that, okay, is it paying off? Are we getting our money back?
That's cool. How much time do you spend out selling versus do you do any of the in-home installations at all, Andre?
I don't do any installations. I still do some of the selling.
Good.
Not as much. Probably kind of more a project manager role.
I mean, what did the franchisor help you with? Did he help you with training? Does he help with your marketing? Were they there for you?
Yeah, so obviously the training initially covers, everything in a business, from financial to installation to sales to your suppliers to project management. So that, you get going with everything, it gets dropped on you. And then you start to plug in the pieces and staffing. So right
Mhm.
now we have 3 salespeople and 3 main installer with a couple of subcontractors we work with. So that's,
Wow,
and that takes
pretty
time,
big.
right, to build those relationships and bring on the right staff that's the right fit.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, just continue. We have weekly calls with the whole franchise. We have our own mastermind group with some of the other owners, and then also there's regional ops manager calls. Just
Cool,
once.
cool. That's
I can
good.
call every day if I wanted to.
That's good. Kathy, what about you? How supportive was the franchisor?
Franchisor was and has been phenomenally supportive. That's one of the main reasons that I picked this particular franchise. They provide a ton of training. They provide all the guidance. They are always looking for partnerships with other vendors that we can leverage. They are supportive of our POS systems. It's a standardized, so we get we get scale pricing, being a larger franchise. We really have some great benefits for being a part of this franchise. They are very hands-on. I can call I have the president's cell phone number on my cell phone, so I can reach out to
Wow.
her if I do. The training and their employees are mostly longer term or very knowledgeable, and I can they provide business coaching. They provide coaching for you if you need it, and they encourage you to use it. It's been a great group to work with.
Cool, cool.
So,
Sounds like you all have very positive opinions of your franchisor.
So I was wondering too, one of the things that we had talked about, one of the things when I'm working with clients that I talk about is, you know, showing people things that are Amazon proof, recession resistant, and now of course, pandemic resistant. I really try to show franchises that have been around for quite a long time. Like I know Andres has been around for well over 40 years, I believe.
37, 35, 37
Yeah.
years.
Okay. I don't remember about Big Frog, but they've been around for quite a while, right?
We just did 15 years.
15 years. And Red Wing is a long time, right?
Yeah, over 100 years.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
So one of the questions I have is, what was when I think of Amazon proof, I don't think of shoes as Amazon proof, and I don't think of shirts, and we'll get back to you, Kathy, on that in a second. But so what made you comfortable investing in Red Wing, even today, with, the potential that people could buy shoes online?
So, I was probably more lucky than smart in this, but a couple things come to mind. We were considered, and I don't know if I remember the terminology now, it's been a few years, but we were considered an essential supplier since we were providing safety footwear. We did not have to shut down, which, was a blessing in disguise. Obviously our numbers took a big hit, which I think most of us would probably have that same experience. But that was really, really just nice to, at least we can still work, pay people, keep our doors open. Some others don't have that, didn't have that ability, when the pandemic hit. And the other thing, one of Red Wing's competitive advantage, and really how it separates from most other footwear providers, is we're really kind of that old school sit and fit experience. So footwear is actually one of the most returned items that are bought online, which
Really?
again, I did not know, in all honesty, before I opened up a Red Wing store. But it obviously rings true because I can see it. We get a lot of folks that even can buy through Red Wing's online channel certain styles of footwear, you can actually go right to Red Wing and buy those shoes right online. I get a lot of those folks that come right into our store. And then we end up getting credit for that sale. So really it was just almost dumb luck that, just the way we do business, a lot of places you go get a shoe, you just grab it off the shelf and you try it on. We're really kind of a boutique, I guess, footwear store. If you come in, we want you to try on the shoes. We try on multiple sizes. We look at arch heights and the way you walk. Some people call them gait analysis. The way, the pressure, supination, pronation. So we really do a full service fitting. And we're not for everybody. We're not looking for that customer that wants to go to Walmart. We're just that customer that just needs a pair of shoes to get through, a certain factory. We're looking for that folks that, view their footwear as a tool for them to accomplish their job. We're probably one of the most expensive footwear providers out there. I guess just a little flavor of how I think through that, Therese.
Okay, excellent. What about you, Kathy?
We and this some of it's luck, dumb luck, that we are did very well during the recession, but a lot of it's relationship building. We actually flourished during the recession due to a huge fundraiser that was done for frontline service providers, so fire, rescue, ambulance, and sold probably $100,000 worth of shirts and made a fortune for a fundraiser for these people. And it was all about a single relationship that just blossomed. We are, nobody's Amazon proof, but we are as close to Amazon proof as possible because so custom, no minimums. Are we custom ink proof? I think so, because we have graphic designers here. You don't have to try and figure it out. We let you try things out. There are always people who are going to go online and shop online. There's no getting around that. But if you are able to offer that service, that one-to-one service of specialty or quick turnaround or quick turnaround, and really be able to give the customer what they really want and need, they won't need to go online. And we found that with Big Frog.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and you have gone out, and I think that was probably also one of your biggest growth spurts, right? Was going out and learning how to network and build those relationships, because you were used to being in the office.
Oh, and I still vividly recall my very, 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 very first Chamber of Commerce event where I walked in. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. Come a long way and met a lot of people along the way, and a lot of them now recognize the Frog. So it's good.
Yeah, it's good. How about you, Andre? That first time you had to walk into a chamber meeting or a BNI, what did you, because I was right there with you guys. The first time I walked in, I really felt like an imposter. Who the heck am I and what do I know?
Fake it till you make it. I think the nice thing about that is it's kind of like that. I did that Goldman Sachs class, the 10KSB, and what you start to realize when you go into BNIs and chambers and these classes is that everyone's in a different industry with the same challenges and same kind of opportunities as well to learn. So no one's really picking on you, right?
Right.
If anything, they're trying to help you and network and see how they can be helpful. So I always find it to be very positive. And I guess I'm not super shy, but I'm not the most outgoing person either. But it was, it's helpful to make those connections for sure.
Excellent. And Danny, you don't need to attend any of those, do your store managers, or no, not at all?
Not a lot. No. I think, they could, they do have a place for us, but we really didn't, it's just amazing how quickly things started for us. Again, Red Wing's been around for 100 years. I remember the first day we opened, we just had people coming in that knew more about Red Wing than I did. And, honestly, I still learn from Red Wing customers that have been, their dads and their grandfathers have been part of Red Wing and had Red Wing boots for, years. It really is almost a self-sustaining, marketing model, if you will, just from word of mouth.
And we did have one question here in this. It's, I am a newer nonprofit coffee shop started with the help of SCORE. Our business model is doing well and strategically I've been considering recommending to my board that we franchise within the next few years. How much work is involved with launching another franchised business while maintaining a pre-existing business? It's probably a lot of work. It is probably more of a side conversation that, if you want to reach out and talk to me or, talk with Ed, and, I just think there's probably logistics and, in my understanding things a little bit better before I could answer that question, honestly. But I think that, as just launching that first business was a lot of work. And then when you open a franchise or another location, I mean, I owned 3 locations. I owned 3 Shell stations, when I was younger, my husband and I, and, just because we knew what we were doing on the first one, that didn't mean the second one didn't have some, just different nuances, in the hiring and training and all of that of a second location is, still work. What's some, good, what's one piece of information, Kathy, that you would give to somebody that is thinking about, whether it's franchised business ownership, whether it's, starting from scratch or buying an existing business? What kind of advice would you give someone exploring business ownership today?
Wow. So one of the things that I wish I had known before I started is looking for resources in the community, whether Chamber of Commerce, whether Rotary, whether SBDC. I didn't know any of these existed. I literally walked out of the bank one day and walked into a shop the next day and thought I had to do it all. And there were so many local resources that are available, and honestly, great networking opportunities that I wish I had reached out before I started building, before I started getting my accountant, just so many resources that could help and guide me, offer suggestions, offer feedback. I wish I had known about those people before I opened my doors and then waited 3 months before I went to my first networking event. I'm like, I should have done it before I opened my doors. So that would be my 2 cents.
That's a very good piece of information. How about you, Andre?
I think the one that I think about is maybe what Danny did was, I know it took a long time to jump into it, but then maybe ease into it a little bit more, take my time to learn while still maintain the main, my main position, my main job, but also because usually that first year you're doing a lot of learning, figuring things out. And since the way I approached it, I never did any installations. My main job would have been sales and project management, ordering, things like that, which I could have done. So, I mean, I don't think it's a deal breaker or anything like that, but I think it's something, if I went back, I probably would have done that and just like eased into the business a little bit more. It's always, anybody asks you how you business ownership, and just everybody says that you jump off a cliff and you do it.
Yeah.
Like looking back, because I've done some validation calls with people looking to buy a kitchen tune-up. So that's one of the things I said, hey, if you can ease in, figure things out along the way and still support yourself financially, I think that's a wise decision.
Yeah. There's that, and especially you and Danny, both had a growing family still, at the time. And Kathy's, not that it was easier necessarily, but Kathy's kids were in high school and it afforded and Brian continued to work. So, yeah. How about you, Danny?
What first comes to mind is what Andre just kind of went through, not necessarily having to dive in 2 feet. which worked for me. It may not make sense for everybody, but I think for a lot of folks, they may not consider that. And then, I guess the other thing would be, and I did this to a certain extent, but again, I was still maintaining a full-time role when I finally opened the store. Is, the quicker you can immerse yourself, and essentially work the store. So like Kathy, sounds like Kathy, for the first 3 months was probably, hands on deck for everything. But you really start to understand, the nuances of the store, where are the things that maybe you can improve on, because at first, I had a manager, good person, but we missed some things. And I just think that, nobody's going to be in tune and dialed into the business like an owner is. So even if you have aspirations, like myself or Andre, or maybe even Kathy, if you grow and want to scale, I really think it's necessary to understand, the dynamics of the business, and really operationally everything from A to Z, because knowing that, I can assess and monitor each store. It doesn't become, double the amount of work every time I get a store. So I just think having that knowledge, knowing how to do things A to Z, really allows you to step back and monitor and kind of decide, hey, is the store doing what you want it to do, and is it working as it should, if that makes sense.
Excellent. So Ed or Gwen, or anyone else online, do you have other questions? Things that maybe I didn't ask that you're wondering? So I think the shortest term person here has been in business for 5 years. The longest is about 7 or 8, I don't remember. And 3 completely different businesses, 3 completely different personalities. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. One of the mantras that SCORE always preaches when someone comes to us to start a business is a business plan. Do the 3 of you have a business plan? And do you refresh it as things change, or you just stick it in a drawer, or do you have one? I mean, I know small businesses that don't, that kind of fly by the wing, and they're very successful. It depends what kind of person you are, I think. So how do you approach it formally, or you kind of wing it as you go?
So I was probably a combo. And again, this is where the corporate office really helped with some guidance. They provided a lot of marketing and a lot of marketing suggestions. So documenting what I wanted to do, who I wanted to reach out to, my growth, where my expertise was. So I did a lot of the planning up front. And I'm just going to lay it out. I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I didn't know was pretty significant. And it was a lot of learning as you go. And then every once in a while, you stop, you take a breath, and you say, okay, let's take a look at that plan again and pull it out. It is not something I look at on a daily basis, probably not weekly or monthly, but it is something in the back of my head that says, okay, I know what I want to do. I know what my growth needs to be. I know what activities and tasks need to be there. Putting it down and doing it. So sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's not so easy. So it's a little bit of both.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Actually,
What about
plan.
Andre?
Well,
Andre or Danny?
Yeah,
How
the
do you
last
approach it?
last one I did was when we did 10 KSB, which was last spring. So that was probably my last one that I have updated. Well, that was my last version. I haven't updated since last spring, I guess.
Okay.
Danny, what about you?
Well, I don't know if I should admit this, but my business plan up front was absolutely worthless. I'm not sure how I'm not sure how anybody bought into it. I'll just, even if I were to start a new franchise today, I just, I don't find a ton of, you just don't know what you don't know. And, assessing the market and developing
Yeah,
a strategy.
yeah.
It's good things to think through. I mean, but it really didn't become valuable until I started to really kind of move on and open my second, third, fourth
Mhm.
store. And you start to develop a real strategy. You understand the market. You understand really who your competitors are. And then really, it's beneficial for financing. I've used the SBA a couple times. I didn't go the 401k route. So they expect a business plan. So to me, it's kind of probably a necessary evil isn't the right word.
Yeah,
But I didn't do really good at it, and it seems just to be more something that helps me think through things and then obtain financing.
gotcha. Yeah, I remember I had one client once that whenever the subject of a business plan came up, she would start crying. It is a painful experience.
It is a painful experience.
Yeah.
It is a
Well,
painful experience.
yes. The last question I have is, there's a startup cost to a franchise. Is there any like ongoing costs involved
Mhm.
that you encounter?
Oh yeah. Technology, equipment, upgrades, improvement, repairs.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that it doesn't end.
Franchise
Gotcha.
fee. You have your franchise fee.
I mean, royalties, which is
Yeah.
a part of franchise, but that's built in. That's not
Right, right, right.
unique. Anything unique would be technology. New computers. Your computers get old and dated, and I've been replacing those. Your business grows, and how do you grow your business? And
Mhm,
so we have new printers and new
mhm.
technology that allow us to do better printing, different printing.
Sure,
So yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
It's kind of like overhead stuff. So, Andre, what about you? Is there any ongoing costs that you see? I mean,
Cost of
obviously,
just
the materials is a huge piece of it, but anything beyond that?
cost of learning on the job, right? It continue. I mean, the kind of since we have a showroom, obviously there's a cost there on a monthly basis, marketing that
Mhm.
we spend, and staffing. We have also an admin on top of the three installers with the sales reps. Um, Franchise fee, which is kind of built into the royalties. Sorry, royalties built into their pricing. But I would say those are probably our top costs.
Gotcha. Thank you. Danny, any ongoing costs?
Well, I'll make a comment around a couple surprises that I don't think anybody would realize until you become a business owner. But I was really shocked. I mean, obviously, we know the cost of services have gone up, especially over the last 3-4 years. Our leases, anytime I execute a lease now, and maybe this is a little too tactical or in the weeds, but I think it's a good comment. I put a limit on what our CAM fees could be. So all the fees they charge you, above and beyond our base rent, snow plowing and cutting the grass, that stuff has really, really increased since I opened. And really I wasn't protected, so one of the things I do now is I try to put in a limit on some of those other peripheral costs that, they can't go up more than 5% or something like that. And in this day and age, that really, really helps. And, another example, if your landlord sells the building, and the building gets reassessed for its property taxes. If your lease says those are passed through, your property taxes could literally double that they pass through to you. So certainly that's pretty far in the weeds, but I think from an expense perspective, those are two things that really, really surprised me that a seasoned business owner really wouldn't be aware of.
That's really pretty insightful. That's not something I've ever heard of. So that's very good.
Let's see, do you
Um,
have any other questions out there?
I do have a
So,
question. I just wonder generally how the um, how franchises are treated in terms of accessing loans and by the SBA or et cetera. Do they get special treatment or are they looked at a little more carefully? How is that? How does that proceed?
Definitely no special treatment.
Well, they, not that they get special treatment, but the failure rate is much lower. So, as opposed to a startup, you know, a scratch, you know, starting a business from scratch, you know, the chances of getting a loan are much better. You're going to have to come to the table with the same thing that everybody else has to come to the table with. You have to come to the table somewhere with, you know, 20 to 30% down as your cash injection. You know, you're going to have to, you know, which I always recommend to all of my clients anyhow. You know, you need to have at least a year's worth of living expenses saved up, because you're taking your income away. And you know, the SBA wants to protect all of those things also, because they're guaranteeing your loan. So I wouldn't say that you get special treatment, but franchises show have a track record. And if you're going with a good franchise that has a good track record, then you have a better opportunity, should you as a person also have, you know, a decent credit score. You're coming to them with a reasonable business plan and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So Kathy, just, you know, unless anybody else has any questions, I just kind of would like to wrap this up with,
I'm sorry. I did have a quick question. Well, a
Yeah.
couple. As far as the funding, I know that Miss Kathy was talking about local resources, like checking into the Chamber of Commerce and different places. Do you know of any other resources that you could possibly tell me that I could jot down to check into?
For funding?
Yes, for local sources of help or something to get the startup costs with assistance on that. If you're looking into a franchise or something.
I mean, aside from CPA, my own 401k, family and friends who want to invest. I'm local bank for a loan, but I'm not aware of anybody. My resources were, who am I going to do my bookkeeping through? Who can do my printing? Who can do cleaning of the facilities? Those are the vendors that and the resources that I reached out to. All of my funding is done through one of the proper channels of banking or finance. Not anybody. I mean, again, if you find a banker, they might be able to help. And if you're looking for somebody to help you flip your 401k into a funding for your business, there's definitely, I can guide you there, but to help you fund as far as raising private resources, I don't know that anybody would do that unless they want to split a business.
Yeah. There aren't, you know, SCORE, SBDC, you know, I don't know. Some people think there's grants, but, you know, to be honest, if you're looking to buy a franchise, and let's just say that franchise costs $100,000, you're going to need to have at least 30% down, which is $30,000 cash injection to the SBA. And, you know, and then, like I said, they're going to want to know that you have, you know, some living expenses, and typically really that someone else in the household is working. So there aren't, that I know of, any grants or anything that are going to help you start a business.
Well, this wouldn't be
I'm unsure of what she was speaking of. Maybe I heard it wrong, but she said that when she first started her business up, that she was looking, she wished she would have known about the Chamber of Commerce, or just, I couldn't hear the other ones that she was talking about, that she wished she would have known. I don't know if it was just for more knowledge or what it was for. And the funding part is fine where I'm sitting at now, but I'm just talking about learning as much as possible, resources of any sort. I didn't know what she was talking about on that part.
Those are resources of non-financial sort for the most part. Again, I going for a local bookkeeper, going for a local printer. I mean, instead of going online to print your business cards, or going through different online vendors, looking for local resources. And again, SBDC is wonderful, because they've got free resources to help you learn about marketing and social media and even bookkeeping if you're doing it yourself. So the SBDC is a local resource for a lot of skills that you can get, and they have mentoring. I mean, it's things that I didn't know before I started. That's what that is.
Okay,
Oh.
and I just posted ECDI as a possible source for loans for low income, etc. Or
Yeah. I think they only loan about 75,000. Is that correct, Gwen?
that I don't know.
Yeah, I think up to about 75, but I could be wrong. And it's usually a little bit higher interest rate, but they are a good source to talk to. And plus they make you go through some classes before they'll loan you some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions? All right. So, Danny, just start with one thing. I am glad that I own my own business because.
I would say, because of a sense of accomplishment and independence.
Oh, good. Okay. Andre?
I think potential, just growing the business, see where that takes us financially, and also 10, 20 years, do you pass it down, do you sell it, what do you do with it as well?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, you both, well, all three of you have that opportunity that a lot of people forget about, is to sell their business at the end of your career or to leave it as a legacy for your family. Kathy, how about you?
A sense of making people happy. That's one thing I missed at the bank when I was doing platform upgrades and system changes. There's no customer interaction, and I love working with customers, along with a sense of accomplishment, like Danny said. And the financial reward has been very pleasantly positive.
I know. I always brag that you got to take your daughter to Paris for her high school graduation gift, and I thought that was Italy.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it was so wonderful. But yeah, that was her graduation gift.
Yes. All right. Well, back to you, Ed. Maybe. Oh, thank you. Yes, that's my information is on there. Please connect with me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help you in any way. I have a lot of resources in the community that I'm always willing to direct people to. So
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you.
One last thought. Gwen, can you post the small business orientation dates, or at least the one for July, on the chat for those who are interested? They do like a
I can get those.
monthly business orientation that is very encompassing, that could probably answer some of our callers' questions that she had around funding possibly. So that was all I had, Therese.
All right. Well,
Other than that,
Danny,
thank everybody.
Andre, yeah, and Danny, Andre, and Kathy, thank you so much for stepping away from your businesses for an hour and helping some people have different thoughts about it. So have a great day and great rest of summer.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks,
you all
Tracy.
again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.